take a look at the first time I ever did a dip manicure, January 6th, versus my sixth time doing a DIY dip mani, which was on March 19th. So I have no idea how I went from laying in bed and feeling super emotional and all over the place, hello full moon in Libra, to looking at pictures of my past DIY manis, but as I laughed at my first valiant attempt of a dip mani, a thought struck me. If I continue to write more, will my writing skills improve just as much as my dip mani skills have improved as I continue to persistently practice and, bumble a little through this dip mani life? Okay, so it was kind of a random thought, but not wholly out of the blue, as I've been doing a lot of reflecting about Calypso's Heart and Riker's Key, and even Deacon's Star, plus what I've written a book for so far, too. And I just started listening to the Riker's Key audiobook chapters. It's kind of like proofreading or proof listening, and as I hear the words I wrote and the story that I shared, I find myself cringing a little and saying things like, oh my god, did I write that? Why did I word it that way? Maybe I should have edited that out. The same thing happened when I listened to Calypso's Heart too, and I imagine this may just be a part of the lifelong author journey I've embarked on. For whatever reason, it kind of reminds me of how professional sports players, or even how my sister, dad, and I growing up with high school basketball games, shout out to my dad who literally attended and videotaped every single one of our games. Anyways, it kind of reminded me of how professional sports players watch the recording of their game to see what plays they executed well, or what moves or skills they could improve on, or what needed more practice. So when I listen to the audiobook, it's this sort of after the game recap and reflections where I can identify things I liked and things I might be able to improve on. And as I laid in bed, lie, I swear that verb is like my arch nemesis. Whatever. So as I was laying in bed and looking at my A for effort first dip mani, the parallels of my author journey presented themselves like a total light bulb moment. Back in January, like 3 months ago, I remember watching a couple video tutorials on how to do dip mani nails. And then I was like, I want ombre red and black, and then ombre white and black. The gold sparkles that you see was just like an in-the-moment inspirational decision. It wasn't planned. And then after having this desire for ombre nails, I went out on my balcony and did it. Yep, they look pretty dang terrible too. But the thing that struck me as I reflected back on all of it was how even though I was completely brand new to dipping, and super rusty with manicures in general. Hello, quarantine and having naked nails like the whole time for almost a year. I had a vision in mind, and I had this vision of ombre nails, and then I just did it. I bought the dip powders and the tools, and I did it. Again, the results are, well, now that I'm looking back, I can laugh, but like I said, I'd give myself an A for effort. And even though they weren't really all that grand, I showed off my mani to my boyfriend and then my sisters, and they were all super supportive, and yet we also acknowledged that it really wasn't my best work. And that's a topic for another day, having a support system that simultaneously lifts you up while also being honest and truthful. Okay, so what the heck does this have anything to do with writing? Well, I realized how similar this process was for me when I first embarked on this author journey. When I first started writing, I literally just woke up one day in January back in 2019, and I started writing the characters and the stories that just popped into my head unexpectedly. And that ended up being Calypso's Heart. Sure, at the time, I recently rekindled my love of reading, and I had read a fair amount of paranormal romance books, but I didn't know what I was doing. But just like with the ombre nails, I had a vision in mind, and I just dove headfirst into the author life, and I just started writing. I literally had never written a novel or a story or anything in my life. The only writing I had done was essays for school and assignments for school that had been really years and years ago, and it wasn't even like for a writing class or anything. It was just really boring and dry essays. So I didn't know a damn thing about writing novels. Literally had no idea what I was doing. If someone had asked me about plots or pacing or character development or point of view or word account, editing, formatting, publishing, book cover design, literally all the things. I would have scratched my head and been very confused at all the foreign terms and concepts, and even the expectations and quote unquote rules. All I knew was that I had did my very best to write the vision that I saw in my head and translate it into the paper. So just like the very first dip manicure I did, Calypso's Heart may not be my best work. Same goes with Riker's Key, Deacon Star, and yes, even the current book I'm writing. But I'm hoping that my writing skills will only get better each and every time I let the words flow onto the page. Just like the improvements and differences I see from my first ever dip mani to my most recent mani. And you can see why it's really no mystery why I'm a little traumatized to try and do an ombre manicure set again. Okay, so I really wanted to just close this out with a huge heartfelt thank you to you for not only choosing to take a chance on Calypso's Heart and Riker's Key and diving into this species world with me, but also for being on this author journey with me, for being there for Calypso's Heart, my first dip mani, if you will, and for hopefully being with me as I continue to learn and grow as I write more stories. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, and I'm curious, what's one thing that you tried recently for the first time and you'd give yourself an A for effort?